I will just introduce John a little more. He's an expert in the synthesis of beyond budgeting, open space, sociocracy, and agile, and is president of the Governance Alive, his company. He used to teach teams to integrate these social technologies to improve their systems. He is used to help or guide clients to rewiring their basic power structures towards greater efficiency, of course, increasing the employees' engagement. This is more or less what I have from you. And I know you have been writing 3 books. We are on the 3rd book now in different parts of the world. All of them talking about how to use these tools. And the very interesting one, how in Cameroon, how probably children can take the lead. That sounds good. Okay, John, welcome. And it's all yours.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much, Mario. I would like to do an opening by just asking you where you're speaking or joining us from, and just a couple of words, a very quick phrase as to what brings you to, and what interested you about the title. And I'm just going to go along sort of in the order of what my screen is. And so, Riet, I know you're from Belgium. What briefly is your interest?
Yeah, the way that you describe the title, there's a lot of fire, there's humor, there's the wake up challenge, and for me this is just the essence. All the rest is just, for me, trying to be patient with the world catching up, but this is going straight to the point. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kimmy, and then Mark.
Yes, I like what Riet says. Yeah, I'm really appreciating the title, and yeah, feeling some of the things that you're mentioning, and looking forward to hearing your insight.
Thanks. Mark, and then Lila. Where are you from, Mark?
Yeah.
UK, I guess.
I'm in the UK. I'm in Extinction Rebellion, and we're coordinator there, and we use self-organizing semi-sociocracy, semi-holacracy, and of course what we do is try to help with the climate. So yeah, that's what attracted me to the talk.
Great, thank you. Lila, and then Detta.
Yeah, John, you had it right the first time. I'm Lila. And I have a book that I bought a couple months ago on climate change that I haven't even opened the cover on. And to be honest, I would show up for any topic that you were talking about. So that's why I'm here. 2 reasons.
I hear an American accent. Where are you from?
I'm in Minnesota.
Minnesota. Oh, yes. We could talk a long time about Minnesota. Detta?
Hi, calling in from Antwerp, Belgium, in Europe. Yeah, John, I want to hear your wisdom on many things, so I agree a bit with Leila. I keep it short.
Thank you. Thank you, well. Miriam?
Miriam from Germany, Europe. Same. I would like to hear you in personal, so the title could have been anything.
Oh, thank you. Dankeschön. Natalie?
Yes, I'm also calling in from Germany, close to Leipzig, and I actually agree with what Lila and Detta and Miriam said, but I did kind of a quick decision on the next session, and I'm generally quite also connected to the German climate change or climate activist movement, so generally a topic I'm very aware and interested in. Yeah.
I will be in Potsdam speaking at the Agile Testing Days conference in November. So I definitely like Germany. Thank you. Caroline, and then Jan.
Hi, yeah, I've reached sort of cynicism. I'm from the UK. Yeah, I've got to a sort of cynical level. which I don't like being. I've also sort of been in Extinction Rebellion in the past, and I've sort of let that go for the time being. And so yeah, but I still want to show up. And although I've done a lot in my personal life, I got very depressed about the big picture. Check.
Thank you. Jan, and then Andrew.
Hello, I'm calling in from Switzerland. And Barbara Strauch was mentioning your name a couple of times. I'm doing a certified sociocracy expert training, and she seems to be very inspired by you. So I wanted to see who you are and what you're talking about.
Yeah, thank you. Say hi to her for me. Andrew, and then Nana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew. I live in the Connecticut Valley of Western Massachusetts on Pocumtuck homeland, and I am part of SOFA, and I'm interested in how sociocracy can help us meet this critical moment.
Thank you. Nana, and then Erica.
Good morning. I'm Nana, and from United States, Maryland. My organization started using Sociocracy, and I'm just in this conference trying to learn more about it. So
I'm in Maryland also, so if you feel like dropping me your email or something, it'd be fun to talk to you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I'd love to connect. Erica, and then Thomas.
Hi, I'm Erica. I live in rural Northeast Iowa, and I have been divinely guided to transform a community for
Uh-oh, you're muted.
Sorry, did you catch it?
You were saying you were transforming a community and then you got cut off.
Yeah, it cuts me off after a couple seconds. Yeah, divinely guided to transform a community that's more in accordance with Mother Nature and divine order.
It sounds like you may be in the driftless area, are you?
No, I'm a little south of the driftless area.
Okay, yeah, it's still a pretty part of the country. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Thomas.
Thomas said he couldn't, he can only listen, but he's put a note in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you. All righty. Let's dig into my presentation. I've prepared some slides, and then what I intend to do is to have us all talking some more. And so the first slide here is the title of the presentation. I tried to play with the word silently a little bit. And what's this all about? Actually, I'll say that the comment about I feel discouraged, that's what this is aimed at. It's how do we not feel discouraged about the climate crisis? So the agenda is that I want to start out with looking at some problem-solving frameworks, define what a slow crisis is, talk about what's the impact of it, and then focus for much of the last part of the discussion today on what we can do about it and how do we do it. Some things to suggest. And I'm hoping we'll have just a general open time, at 11:15, somewhere around in there. That's my time, 15 after the hour.
I'm sorry, I don't see the presentation. Is this just me or? No.
My screen sharing didn't work. Thank you for stopping me. Appreciate it. Do you see it now?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
Okay, let me go back here. This is the initial screen. It's about how to, get out of your paralysis or your depression. And there's the way I was playing with the word silently. And this is the agenda. Looking at the crisis ahead. What's a crisis? What's the impact? What can we do about it? Great. And please, anybody, if you've got any burning questions, just go ahead and interrupt me. I may put it off till later, or if it's something like that where like I'm just not coming across, please do stop me. So there's a couple of frameworks. Some of you may be familiar with the thing on the left here, which says, gee, when you've got a big problem, you do some picture forming and then you shape ideas together about what you're going to do about it. And then you act. And we'll be focusing mostly on proposal forming and proposal shaping. But then toward the end, I want us to be planning about what can we do. The other framework that I'll be looking at is the Cynefin framework. You'll notice that it's not the framework the diagram you may be used to seeing. They've updated it with these weird circles and stuff, still trying to express what's complexity all about. And we'll be going back and looking at things like the word probe in a little bit. But first, we're going to do a little bit of picture forming. What is the situation we're dealing with? What's a crisis, a slow crisis, and what's the impact? So you probably have all seen or heard of the analogy of boiling a frog. If you put a frog in water and slowly raise the temperature of the water, you'll kill it. If you put it into hot water, it'll jump right out. And so a slow crisis is that we have a hard time knowing that it's happening. This is Al Gore in the US anyway, back in 2000 saying, we're in trouble. And it's back in the 1980s really is when a lot of the worry about the environment began, the Rome conference and all that. And we've got the political people, I don't feel anything, so it must be nothing happening. And you over here are an alarmist. So what is that all about? That's kind of typical of a slow crisis. And it's different than a fast crisis. If your house is burning or you smell gas in your house, you get out because there's danger. If you have a big bear running down the path at you, or a lion, or a car is about to smash into you, you are full of hormones and all kinds of quick reactions are built into your body, and you act now, and you don't talk. Nobody says you're an alarmist or I don't see anything. And that's the kind of crisis that we're built to handle. So a slow crisis is back with the frogs. I will tell a story here. Actually, before I go to the next, I have a friend who woke up one morning and there was knocking on the door, and there was a neighbor there at the door saying, I think I smell gas in your house. And when the door opened, the neighbor said, my God, it's like, get out right now. Your house is full of gas. Well, what had happened is a leak had developed in the furnace overnight, but the people inside were unable to smell it because they were so used to it. And that's an example of what we're dealing with right now. We can't detect that the carbon dioxide is increasing and so forth. So the impact of a slow crisis is you don't know it's happening. And there's like articles that are coming out now saying that CO2 emissions impair cognition. As the climate crisis increases, it may harm our ability to think. And particularly high-level domain things like doing strategic planning are very susceptible to increases. And I'm remember this statistic: 1,000 parts per million, 1,000 ppm, means that they can measure the drop in your ability to think strategically, like it drops by 50% or more. And so bear that number in mind, 1,000. And so there is, if you can't smell the gas, there's lots of danger coming. And there's lots of like reactions we have. If we've got a crisis going, we might take a deep breath to calm ourselves. Taking a deep breath in this case just makes it worse. So that's the nature of one piece of the sustainability of the environmental crisis, is the CO2 affects how we can think. And so what's happening? This was a chart that was put together in 2016. It shows that up until about 1960, there wasn't much change in the parts per million in CO2. And by 2016, it had crept up to 4,000. Remember the danger in 1,000. And I just checked yesterday, and as of May 1st, the parts per million are up at 424, which means up about somewhere in this region up here. And so this line is just continuing to extend, and it's clunking away. And what I can't find is a chart that says, okay, if it's 1,000 parts per million, you're in big trouble, but I don't know what the effects are with lesser parts per million. And I couldn't find a chart anywhere. But I do know that this means that if you're in a stuffy room, you're going to be even less able to think than you ordinarily might be. So like, if you're in a stuffy room and you open the door and you go outside and it's a nice fresh night, you kind of feel the fresh air and you feel better. Well, that stuffy feeling is, I think, beginning to be the way it is and seems normal. And I can remember as a child how after a thunderstorm, the air would feel almost sharp when you breathe it in, and that feeling is gone. So I think there's already effects happening to our ability to think and cope right now. So that's just like the effect of the crisis. There's another effect that you'll be able to see very soon. The Thwaites, I can't pronounce it quite right. Thwaites Glacier is expected to collapse in 5 years. Well, this was written 2 years ago. So somewhere around 2025 and 2027, this ice shelf that's the size of Florida will collapse into the ocean, and we expect a rise of 66 centimeters. That, for the US people, that's 2 feet, and it will happen pretty much overnight. That'll maybe the first clear sign to try to wake up the people saying, well, you're just alarmists, that, there really is something happening. And so the slow crisis may begin to seem more hot crisis at that point, but that's how close we are to seeing that kind of like drama. And it may be more than 2 feet by at the rate that the glaciers are melting in Greenland. And there's going to be a big impact from that, like some of these Pacific islands are going to just go under. Some of the lower lying areas, like in Florida and other places, are going to be in trouble. Don't buy any seaside property these days. So that's the impact of what's going on. There are a question like, well, what's being done to meet the crisis right now? I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Greta Thunberg's speech. I'm going to just play it just briefly here.
How to kill all mosquitoes.
Oh, no. Hang on a minute.
Seconds.
That's not what we want. It's over here and here.
Our house is on fire. I am here to say our house is on fire. According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes.
So the children know what's going on. That was 2 or 3 years ago. So 2030, which is when the UN wants to have the strategic development goals in place, we're going to be at the 1.5 increase in temperature, and we'll be up, in parts per million will be, I'm guessing, somewhere around 600 or 700. And at that point, the things will start collapsing rapidly. The negative reinforcing cycles will just, it's like really big crises, people dying and by the millions because of environment deterioration and so forth. So what's being done about this? If you go and look at things like the environmental, social, and corporate governance effort designed to have companies report on their ESG, okay, it's not working very well. We saw the data that from the parts per million of CO2, it's not stopping it. Europe has come up with some directives saying, okay, you have to report on your corporate sustainability activity. That's leading to a lot of what we call greenwashing. It's not doing anything. It's not brought the crisis under control. the Extinction Rebellion, things like that. There's some things that are where people are trying to say, like Greta, wake up. It's not doing anything. And a few people are beginning to see the planet is screaming, but it's not doing anything. So I have a few, I'll be sharing these slides with you. And there are a few things like the link on the sea rise level that I just pointed to, impairing cognition, that's there. So the situation is that things are happening and they're not effective. They're not, the UN's trying, Europe is trying somewhat, but just like, okay, and it's a very complex sort of a thing. I understand that some people in the Russian government kind of want global warming so that they get a warmer climate. There, I think, could be very soon people that are selling bottled air because the air has gotten so bad, and so they're bring it on. We'll make a profit from it. So it's like it's not clear. We don't know what China's motivation for keeping coal burning power plants going. So it's a very complex sort of thing. There's alarmists, or people are saying you're an alarmist, or I don't see anything, are still there making the political situation very difficult. So what's being done now to meet the crisis? Not enough. So back on the problem solving, we're interestingly enough, if you're familiar at all with the Cynefin framework, you know that if you have a chaotic situation, you just act, you just try to, that what they're now saying is put in some constraints, bring the situation under control. So if you're running, as Greta was saying, if your house is on fire, you get out, you call the fire department, you squirt water on the fire, you grab the dog, whatever, you try to get some constraints on the situation. But in a slow crisis, how do you do that? You have to fall back on the complexity and the strategies of complexity, which means trying to figure out how can we bring constraints and probing, doing experimenting. And I'm going to talk more about probing in a minute, but you're doing it in a time when you need to be acting. So that makes it a very urgent probing kind of a thing. And it's contradictory. It's not clear what to do. So I didn't mean for that to go so quickly. So in the latest Cynefin stuff, they are saying, okay, if your problem is up here, you can maybe dip into the chaotic and you try to make it complicated. You try to get it down here into really rigid constraints. And so this is all very much fluid. And so it's an unusual situation because if you're following the Cynefin thing, you just do what's in one of these circles. There's a very clear guidance, and they're now realizing that it's not clear. But I think that the probing to figure out how can we put constraints on the situation, how can we bring things under control, is where we're at. And I want to talk more about that because I'm going to be encouraging everybody to come up with their own probes. And by the end of this presentation. So I don't see anything in the chat, so I think everybody is okay in terms of clarity. Just checking in before I move on. Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up and so on. All right, great. So let's go into a probe. What is this probe that the Cynefin people are talking about? And sorry, I meant to mention one more thing. At this point, we've done our picture forming, and we're now getting into how do we shape proposals? How do we actually go into action? So we've got a picture. There's a crisis coming. It's a bad crisis. It's happening slowly, which makes great complications, and we're not dealing with it very well. So the probes, a probe is a small, safe to feel experiment based on a hypothesis derived from reflection on the current situation, as well as on theory. So the key thing right here is that we're dealing with a volatile situation, uncertain avuka situation. So a probe is appropriate according to the Cynefin, and not worrying about the fact that we really need to be acting. And there's a cycle of how you develop probes. We're going to reflect a little bit on our situation. We're going to then break and have in breakout groups, do some designing of probes. We won't be able to try an experiment, but I will be encouraging you to maybe get together and try some experiments, communicate. But the thing then when I teach this probe cycle that I find is that nobody knows to be publishing. If you're a bunch of scientists, then you're under publish or perish pressure. You must publish. And that is part of the validation cycle. You come up with this really neat idea, you have an experiment, you publish. This keeps hopping ahead on me. You publish to your peers, some of them try to replicate it and they say, yeah, that you're right, it does work. And now you've got something solid. But if you get into a business environment or your family or your organization or whatever, nobody knows the discipline of publishing what they're doing. They may kind of mess around and try to do some experiments, but they don't publish. And that means that we can't, in the overall society, act in a scientific way, act in a full probe cycle so that we can do more reflection. Like, for example, I was at a gathering, and I'm picking on the Extinction Rebellion folks who identified themselves when we came in. There was some Extinction Rebellion people, and I attended a presentation. And at the end, I wrote a note to them saying, hey, I know Sociocracy. If you want me to, help you be organizing, let me know. Never heard from them. I've never heard any publication from them. There's nothing that I know of in the available media or anything in the newspapers. The Extinction Rebellion is not publishing what it's doing. And I know it may be trying, but it's very typical of what is happening when people are trying to deal with whatever it is. I teach lots of things like, gee, what happens if your company decides to have everybody share their salaries or get rid of their travel requirements? What happens? Are things cheaper, or in the sharing salaries, does the morale go up? And when you do that, there's not a culture there of then publishing that within the company to other companies and conferences in a formal way that can be peer reviewed and replicated. And if we don't do that, then we at the bottom lose our power to affect things. So that I'll get off my soapbox now, but we're going to be talking about that in this cycle. And I want to start now to give you an example of the kind of reflection that you might do when we go into breakout groups. So that it's a thing. If you know Agile, you know about retrospectives, and that's sort of it. But this idea of reflecting comes from another complexity theorist other than Snowden, whose name is Ralph Stacey. In fact, Stacey sort of tutored Snowden. And Stacey came up with the phrase reflexive inquiry. And when you do reflexive inquiry, when you're reflecting, you're trying to break out of your framework. You're trying to think in a different framework. So what's the box I'm in and how do I get out of it? And that's what I'll be asking you to do. So here's an example of a few things that when you sit together and you're free to use these things in your reflections that you might think of. So does everybody remember the video of a concert happening on a hillside outside of San Francisco? And people are sitting around here, and one guy is up over here doing this, and he looks really strange. And he's in the film, he's doing it for like what seems like an embarrassing long time. He's just like this guy with no shirt on wiggling around. And then the first follower comes in, and that's a spark that gets things going. This spontaneous order or self-organization is something that we all have the capability of doing. And Extinction Rebellion, for example, is trying to do that. And maybe we can do it even better, or there's something to that. So in the film, some more people come over and say, oh, let's dance around. And but there's no women, it's only guys in here, interestingly enough. And then more people join, and they're dancing more, and everybody sees it. There goes my thing again here. Oh dear. We're back on this. And down here, and a lot of people are joining, and pretty soon everybody's up doing it. And that's an example of spontaneous order or self-organization. And so it's an example of, can we do spontaneous order? How would we organize that? Can we today, if we're all dancing this, we got to act right now. We got to be probing right now. We're looking for constraints. Could we get something like this going? Because it's the goal of this would be bringing in constraints. This is everybody out saying to the politicians, we're not going to sit around anymore. We're going to start parading every day in front of the Capitol building until you do something. And more people are going to be out there demonstrating. So that might be something that could finally bring some constraints on what the governments are not doing. Like the United States is one of the few countries that has never reported on the SDGs. It's ridiculous. Us, Iran, I think it's South Sudan, are other countries that have never done that. Well, it's like, what's going on there? I've talked with a state representative recently who's into environmental improvement, and she had never heard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I went, oh my God, you're kidding. So pushing the SDGs is something we could all be demonstrating about. So that's one concept that's kind of a little bit of out of the box thinking. Gee, could we do that? Here's another idea. Using CBT chat to come up with ideas. So I went in here and I asked chat CBT, why do some individuals appear to be disconnected from the sustainability crisis? Like, who are those people that are saying you guys are alarmists? And it came up with some interesting things. Psychological distance, examine several factors on why people don't contribute, like cognitive bias, social norms, and so on and so forth. Denial of global warming among conservative white males in the United States. Woo woo! I know those guys. And why are they doing that? You can ask the chat CBT to tell you more about that. You can ask it to say, how could I get spontaneous organizing going, spontaneous order? And it'll give you a bunch of stuff. So maybe we could have a session of asking chat CBT or chat GBT, sorry, what's there? And you could save a lot of thinking time. It's a great way to think reflexively. You do have to, if you haven't used chat GBT, you have to ask repeated questions like, let me see this article, or what other articles are like that, or give me something that's later than 2012. And it will give you, more recent things. So that's a way of gee, we're used to sitting together and thinking, but maybe we sit and think with the help of AI. There's another perspective that you can take, and this comes from the book that I'm going to give you a reference to that talks a whole lot more about probes. So this is a diagram from that comes toward the end of the book. It talks a lot about how you do probes. But the diagram that we came up with was looking at an organization. We were looking at the need for cross-functional teams in an organization. And this organization could be a business, it could be your co-housing community, it could be your family, it could be your NGO, whatever. All those still have customers in some degree, and they have people who are leading them. And so it's very generalizable. Right now, this keeps hopping away on me. There are some government actions
that are outside of the organization that are saying, oh, you need to do the ESG reporting. There are some people like naturalists who are saying, come out and go plant trees. There's not a lot, and your company organization, you could be saying, how do we connect with those people and, you know, not affect ourselves financially? In fact, maybe even do better. Could we be going to the local newspapers and advertising? What's our co-housing group or our washing machine repair service doing, or whatever, about trying to deal with this crisis that's coming? It could be like great advertising if you're, you know, in the business of selling washing machines. We have eco-friendly washing machines. We'll put in some solar tiles just to run your new washing machine, whatever. Are you getting feedback from your customers about asking them, what are they doing about sustainability? Would they please join you in your initiative? You're not only selling computer services, you're trying to also make people very aware of the need to get the environment under control, to get the government moving, and actually putting that in your marketing. Can you look for partnerships with your customers for trying to also get the awareness of the crisis that we're dealing with going? So you can ask that kind of question. Can you have your need to act combined with what you're doing for your business, particularly through your customers? Or let's look at the what's inspiring you, the sources of your inspiration. Are you doing hackathons that maybe are looking at how do we act to get the constraints that we have to have in place from all kinds of organizations? This is a source of inspiration, but you can be doing much more, trying to organize crowds, trying to get the spontaneous order going, inspiring people. What are you doing that way? What's inspiring you? How do you bring in this concern for the crisis that's happening more so? And then finally, your board of directors, they're supposed to be reporting in some cases, like in the ESG, about what are you doing about the crisis? And what are your shareholders doing? Can you say that you can't be a shareholder in our corporation if you're not also, you know, prove to us you're contributing to the crisis? It would be very interesting to go with that constraint to the Wall Street and say, no, there's a constraint on whether you buy our shares or not. We're making good money. You want in, you got to prove to us you're doing something about the climate crisis. Who knows? There's lots of things that can be done, like your local bank. Are you giving funds to people who are not actively into improving the environment? Several years ago, there was a lot of pressure to not give loans, not give credit to people in South Africa, because South Africa had such horrible apartheid conditions, and it worked. South Africa came around. Is your bank doing the same kind of thing? Is your company involved in the corporate roundtable, which has been very quiet lately? How can you start bringing financial pressure on people who are not getting on board about the coming crisis? So this is the kind, you can use this chart as a kind of reflection like that. What are all the things we can do to really try to shake things up, and maybe, you know, while we're doing it, bringing in spontaneous order? And so that's another line of thinking you can be doing in your breakout group. And those are all examples. So again, we've talked a lot about reflecting on your situation. When you're in your breakout groups, I'll be wanting you to design probes. And also including in your design, how are you going to publish that?
So let's see a little bit more about what that designing a probe is all about. And here's a big old long thing and I'm going to be sharing the slides with you very soon so that you can refer to these slides when you're in your breakout rooms. So a probe that I would like to see you put in the chat so that we can all see them is something that for your group that has something about the reflections that you're doing, like, and this example, I'm using this as an example here for an example of can performance evaluations really reflect constant customer focus? And this is an example of how that was put together. When you do it for yourself, put down something from your reflections. Use the background thing. In this case, the reflection was that the company values often do lip service. Other values are often rewarded. So that's an interesting background. So let's say we want to change the company. The hypothesis that emerges from those reflections is that if customer focus is the foundation of performance evaluation, customer satisfaction will improve. So that's the hypothesis. How do we bring the customer into the performance review rather than having the boss say, this is your performance review? And so we invite an experimental unit to write out their own performance evaluation criteria related to their work and reflecting customers' interests and bringing in the customer to do that. Say, hey, this is my performance review. How should I be being graded? And so you do the experiment, and it turns out that if you do that, the performance goes up. Customers go up in their evaluation of how you're doing much more than if management writes your performance reviews, right? Writes the evaluation criteria. So I know the company that was trying this, they used to have company gatherings, and the people who did this had a formal presentation to the company saying, this is what we've done and this is the results we got. And there was a lot of excitement, and pretty soon more units in the company were trying it and finding the same thing. So the company completely changed its performance evaluation process to something so managers weren't writing the evaluation criteria anymore. So that's an example of what does work within a formal organization. But I will be wanting you to scrub out these things and say, all right, what did we think of in our background reflections? Just a sentence or two. What's our hypothesis? If we do this with our company, our organization, with our family, whatever, this is what we think will happen. Remember from your 8th grade science, when you have a hypothesis, you say, this is what we think will happen. This is how we'll measure it. And then you design your experiment. And this for the purposes of today, just say, what are you going to do? Well, okay, we're going to go talk to our bank and say, we want you to be not giving loans to people that are not supporting environment. And we're going to be watching, do you do that? And what happens? Will the bank change? Well, a small local bank might, but maybe you need several organizations going and talking with them. You ask them first, how many organizations do you need to hear from to do this? We need 10, okay? Then you go out and you get 10 organizations together. Maybe that's your experiment. That's 2 experiments. One is that the bank will talk to you and they'll give you some guidance. And 2, the follow-on experiment would be what happens if we try to organize people. That's something. And the other measurement is the time we're spending to do that taking away from making money, or is it actually ending up being really good publicity? So that would be an experiment that you might do that, and who knows what would happen. And then you would need to publish. Are we going to go to the newspaper? Are we going to go tell the county council about that? Are we going to go talk to the next bankers association? How are we going to publish this thing? We're going to put it in Facebook. What's our publication strategy? So again, 1 sentence on what that is, and I'll explain a little bit more about how I want you to do your breakout groups, and I'll give you a chance to ask procedural questions on it. And we're just a moment away from questions. So these are my instructions. In breakout groups, I'm going to put you, I think, let's see, how many people do we have right now? Mario, how many people do we have? I'm away from my screen where I can see that.
We have around 16.
16 people? Okay. Then I think I'll have us break into groups of 3. So that we'll have 5 reports that show up in the chat. And some of you may have groups of 4. And so what I'll want you to do is to take the slide I just showed you, and you're welcome to use the slide. Let's see, to look at the slides and start writing in a chat that goes to everybody. One person be the scribe or the note taker for everybody. And as you reflect, write out a thing with those 4 statements: background, hypothesis, experiment, and publish. And just put a sentence or 2 in there as you think together, and you can come up with a hypothesis that 2 of you help one of you do, or you can come up with 3 hypotheses as if it's completely different. If you can find something that's in common, that's the best of all, because your group then can try replicating it in your organization or your family or wherever, if you happen to have something in common. And so you want to be, how can you do both sustainability concerns and pursue your mission with financial stability? That's the question. And so you use that to come up with your in your reflections to write a probe. How can we do that? And write the probe, including how you'll publish. I encourage you to exchange contact information with each other so that you can encourage each other to go out and give a try to whatever you came up with. The smaller idea you have, the better. If it's your family, we're going to go and talk to 3 other neighbors and we'll publish things in our neighborhood listserv. That's great. Try that. The smaller it is, the easier it is to do. You can see how that worked and then continue from there to reflect and do more probes, continue on the probe cycle. And when you return to the main room, I think if you try to, that if you paste it in while you're still in the breakout groups, everybody can't see it. So you got to wait until you return to the main room so that when you write it out, whoever's the scribe can copy it and then paste it in the main room. And you may want to take notes separately. You can share screens, whatever, if you'd rather do it on a Google Doc. And so you can use the chat thing, or you can use a Google Doc and then paste it in once you return to the main room. So let me now, let me check the chats. I haven't had time to do that. Okay, people are just giving some general chats, no questions. So at this point, I would appreciate it if you would unmute if you have any questions and just speak out, because with the me on slideshow, I can't see you. In fact, maybe for the moment, I'm going to stop sharing. So if you could let me know, you can raise your hand if you want, or just let me know if you have any questions. Hi, everyone. You're the first ones back. So if go ahead now, the people that are back in the room, go ahead and post your probe plan in the chat.
I was just copying. I think I didn't copy. I've written so much. Oh my God. It's lost secrets forever.
Oh dear. Why don't you try to see what you can remember of it?
Let me see.
And mine didn't either. It didn't save it.
No, you have to save it in order to bring it over. Go ahead and try to
Okay.
replicate it.
The dog broke out as well. I have to get it back.
The cat's name is Queenie. She's the royalty of the house. Okay, let's see, we have here, I see one probe posted, so we'll go through that. I just in general, part of my experiment that I'm doing with this class is to see, are there any connections that last after this session today? So if you want to be part of like a WhatsApp group, then I suggest that you go ahead and put your email in this so that I can set up a WhatsApp group and we can continue to publish to each other about what we're doing. If you don't want to, that's fine. And if you only want me to see your email and not have it shared with everybody, you can send me a private message. So again, that's part of my experiment is there a way to start to do groups like this, connect after the presentation like this and build on each other? Is it a way of forming like spontaneous order? And my hypothesis that at least half the people will say we want to stay connected in some way. That's the hypothesis. So all right, we've got Natalie. Can you let's see if everybody would go in and read Natalie's hypothesis silently. Okay, great. Are there if I understand it, Natalie, you'll be experimenting with telling stories about living without a car, and that you think you'll tell 2 stories by the end of May. Do you have an expectation that people you tell the stories to will also start at least using their car less or getting rid of their car? Is that an expectation? And you're muted.
Yeah, or at least they will, I mean, the idea is that they will start thinking about it, or that they will see it's nice and doable, and then they will maybe take actions at some point. Yeah.
Okay. So my suggestion is that you follow up with them, after you've had the conversation to see what happened, and that be your measurement. So you have a check as to whether your stories had any impact, and that it's good to share with each other. If you sign up for a WhatsApp group by sharing your either of you sharing your emails, that's another place to publish. And a third place to publish might be to tell the people that you talk to, this is what happened with your experiment. So that's another way to publish. And another way on top of that would be to put something in Facebook or your local newspaper saying, this is an experiment we did. So those are some suggestions about it. I agree with the comment that it's that Eric is well written, I think. Let's see here. So thank you, Natalie. The Rhonda, you say our group commit to courageously venture into the unknown to find my regenerative community for being collective future well-being. I know these people, by their transparency and authenticity, publish and share on LinkedIn. So I think your hypothesis is that if you talk with your community, you will affect them in some way. And my question would be, what is your measurement? how do you know that you've affected them, if I'm understanding it properly?
Right. So the hypothesis in our group, the conversation was a little bit, I would say, not so structured.
Mhm.
So I would say the commonality in the need that we were identifying was that people need off-ramps from mainstream society to something different. And so by finding the people and places that we can connect with that are doing that work, we strengthen those communities and also may become like a way of helping others find that network.
Okay, so by hypothesis, sounds like it's by connecting with communities, you'll help build those communities, the communities that are trying to deal sustainably, and that your measurement might be, in a month, did more people get attracted by what you were doing? And you can check back in on that, so that it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Great. And I think LinkedIn sounds like a great place to publish. Andrew, power grid going down, build systems now with accessible resources and with expertise, and missing battery backup, so they are useful if the grid goes down. Have at least one family out of 34 units install a power wall, report to the community on their experience. You to everyone, conversion system to a battery, and so forth. The people they might not have access. Boy, there's a lot written here. Okay, so on the power grid thing, what's your measurement of your hypothesis that you can now make offline resources more available? What's your measurement?
It's a pretty simple test. If we have a blackout, will we have power? And right now we have all of these solar panels, but they're tied to the grid and they're useless without a battery backup. So, and we're asking one family to venture and try it. Tell us about the expense, the convenience, the reliability, and that would influence others.
Got it. Great. So the getting the family to do it and publish it hopefully would lead to other people doing it, and you wouldn't have to wait for a blackout.
We had a similar experience with our gas-powered lawnmowers. We had a fleet of gas-powered lawnmowers, and a member agitated about getting the first electric battery-powered, and now we have a fleet of battery-powered lawnmowers and other equipment. Yeah,
that's something you can even publish right now. And so you didn't say how you would publish it, so you might want to think about that. That's a great story to publish. Even if it's just within the community, but to other communities would be a great story. Great. And I'm going to go on to Kim's. You're wanting to get neighborocracy going. That's a great thing. I love that. Kim, what is your measurement of how you're doing?
That's what I'm just realizing. Yeah, I don't have a measurement.
Okay, just a critique.
I'm just trying to type in the things as well.
Right. Yeah. So something that would let you, see that it's really going on, and how you're publishing it might be useful too. Great. And then Reet, whom I was thinking was Mario for a moment. Apologize for that. Hypothesis: consumed less and connect more locally. We would be happier, healthier. Experiment, gift table, folks. The evaluate, okay, here, enthusiasm, more happiness. You might want to do the measurement, you might want to do a pre-survey and then a post-survey, Reet. That would let you measure the impact of what you're doing. And
yes,
the okay, great. And I will try to get these into the WhatsApp group. It looks like that there's several people putting in emails. Let's see here.
I'm not gonna participate in the how do you say, the continuing of this. but don't take it personally. I really appreciate it, but I'm just already engaged in so many of these kinds of initiatives. I would be less effective if I participate in more. So then the whole thing would just get lost.
Understand. That's great feedback. Thank you. Let's wrap up now. We're supposed to be done right now. If you can stay around a little bit longer. Mario, is that okay if we just get feedback on it?
Yes, I mean, now it's time to quit. In case people want to stay, you can do it. Some
Okay.
other people wants to go to other groups. It's up to everyone.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, John, and
if
everyone.
you want to hang out a little bit more, we can do that. And
Will
any
the,
comments on how the presentation went would be much appreciated.
And will the chat be saved?
I'm going to save the chat. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks. I need to go. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about if everyone say in one word how they feel about the presentation and the room?
Yeah, great. That would be great.
Can you direct them? Can you facilitate? Natalie first and then Caroline?
Sure. Actually, if you want to facilitate, that'd be great.
Great. Natalie, tell me, or Kim, if you want to, before you leave.
Encouraged.
Thank you very much.
Endlessly encouraged. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Natalie. And then Caroline.
That's been great.
Yeah.
Still a bit puzzled about the big questions.
Thank you very much. Caroline, and then Reed.
Thoughtful. I've got a quick question I'll put in the chat.
Yep, thank you. Reed, and then Erica.
Encouraged as well, and new insight on the simplicity of getting into action.
Great. Thank you for your participation, Reed.
Yes.
Erica, you want to say something? You are muted, Erica. Can you please unmute it?
Okay, yes. I would say inspired is the word. I took a leap and it turned out okay.
Great. Thank you very much. Nana, you are there? Are you there? There are some people want to go in.
Yes, I am here.
Hey, Nana, how was your evaluation?
Very insightful, and yeah, I didn't know what to expect when I was joining, but it has been a helpful tool for me.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. John, I saw you join the group a little later. Did you got something? Have you something to say?
Talking to me?
No, Jan.
Oh, Jan. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was dropping out, but I was coming back because I had some issues with the breakout leaving. But I feel motivated to be more courageous. Thank you.
Okay.
And I've got the chat saved, so I'll be posting that.
Yeah.
Create a WhatsApp group.
Let me see if Erki, are you hearing me out? You want to have you want to say something?
10 on 10. That's 10 on. He's baking bread. He's putting it into practice.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. It was great to see all your ideas and to do my own little probe. So thank you.
Thank you very much, John. It was very interesting, your approach to organize so fast things that give results. I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
John, can I ask you about the WhatsApp group?
The WhatsApp group?
WhatsApp group, yes. I didn't know. I'm not too keen on getting messages on my phone through WhatsApp like text, but are you meaning like an email group or a WhatsApp phone group?
A WhatsApp group doesn't come in on your phone. It comes in on WhatsApp.
Right. Okay.
And there's all kinds of things, Discord and and you know,
Yeah,
Slack
no.
and all that kind of stuff. WhatsApp seems to be more commonly used, as far as I can tell.
But can you get, if I give you my email, I don't understand how that would come in on the WhatsApp message.
You're right.
Just don't understand
You're right.
it.
I was going to be just sending you an email saying, here's the WhatsApp group, you know, you can join it and, you know, go in with your phone number. So I was just cutting, being short or cryptic on my procedures. Bye, Reed.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. So if you have time right now to put in your email, that'd be great.
I did, yeah. Thanks a lot, John.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we wait a little so you can copy the rest of the chat.
Yeah. Let's see. I've got.
Yeah, that's it. Erika.
I think. Oh, wait a minute. I've got Mario.
Yeah, I forgot to write mine before because I wrote it in the other group. So.
And I've got Erica Epworth.
Erica Epworth.
I got hers, and let's see the. Yeah, Reed said I should have spent more time on the bottom up. Cards as well.
I don't see anyone else here.
I don't see anyone else.
No, because somehow the chat broke after the break rooms. The chat start again. I don't know why.
Yeah, the chat in the breakout rooms doesn't automatically come to the main room. You have to copy it and paste it in. I wasn't clear about that.
Yeah, that's the only thing was difficult for people here. But
Right.
I think was a great result anyway. I hope you're satisfied with what you.
Yeah, people seem to be enthused. Yeah, and have been moved. I'm going to be really curious to see. Just checking to make sure I've got. Yeah, I've got some emails, so we'll see. I haven't counted them all up. So thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you. Have a great
pleasure.
time.
Pleasure to work with you.
It's a real pleasure to meet you. Bye-bye.